Okay, so why I buy long distance. So I live in Southern California. I'm not sure what markets you guys are in, but it is stuff out here is super, super expensive. So I've decided to buy in other markets. Number one reason is other markets are expanding. California is great for appreciation. You could literally buy anything in California, give it 10 years, and it'll 2x, 3x, as you can see in the last 10, 15, 100 years in California. But if you're looking for a cash flow market, California can provide a bunch of challenges, especially I'm in Los Angeles, Orange County, Inland Empire. I know we got the same thing in San Francisco and all those other markets. It can be hard to find cash flowing assets here. So I've decided to look into other markets. The second thing that I think is less talked about with long distance investing is the lifestyle. So the lifestyle business, I want to buy something that's going to create the lifestyle I want. So I want to be able to own and manage these assets remotely in other places. So a lot of people get sucked into the cycle of I buy a property, I do all the repairs myself, I'm my own handyman, I'm my own repair guy, my own cleaning guy, and then they go from investing to running a business. Like there's if you want to run a real estate business, fine, or you can invest in real estate where you're just purchasing the assets, stabilizing the assets, and then collecting the cash flow. The last thing is diversifying your income. By being in multiple markets, number one, you get to enjoy the growth of those markets. Other markets that have exploded in the last 5, 7 years, like markets in Florida, like Tampa and Jacksonville and Texas, like Houston and Oklahoma and Ohio. A lot of these markets that are growing rapidly, you can participate in by investing long distance. So these are the type of commercial real estate investments. I'm going to go over them briefly. There's multifamily, which is the most well-known commercial real estate assets. And then, so commercial multifamily assets is identified as 4+ units. They're super easy to lease. Everyone needs a place to live. They typically have higher turnovers, and a lot of people end up going with property management because these assets are very hard to manage. They're a pain in the butt. You constantly have people that need toilet fixing, people that need sinks. You are responsible for the majority of the repairs, if not all of them, in multifamily. And then you have retail and industrial. Both of them operate fairly similarly. They're harder to lease, but the terms are usually 3-year, 5-year, 10-year leases. So the leases are longer, and they can be single tenant retail or single tenant industrial, like the Burger King at the end of the street, or you can have a strip center that has 4, 5, 7, 15, 20 shops. And then retail will also include like shopping malls. And then you have industrial, same thing. Most industrial is actually single tenant buildings, but you can also have multi-tenant industrial buildings. So we're going to go over some case studies. These are properties. This one I closed on. This is a 10 unit I purchased while living in California. This one actually got really messy. This is a value add that I've done. It's a value add that I started in California, but actually had to end up moving to Ohio because things were so hectic. So I had to go to Ohio to finish stabilizing this asset. This is an example of a failed long distance commercial real estate, but it's what taught me that I need to transition out of multifamily because multifamily is so management intensive. So unless you have a really good property manager, some of the other asset classes might be a better fit. This is a 10-unit multifamily in Dayton, Ohio. It's 2 buildings. It was a 6-unit and a 4-unit on the same street. The average rents, I purchased it May 2020 and I sold March 2024. The average rents when I purchased it were $750. And by the time I sold, the average rents were $1,050 a month. And over the hold period, which is I think is like a little under 2 years, I invested $45,000 into the building. So I purchased it for $600 May 2022. I sold for $860 March 2024. Rents when I bought it, rents when I purchased it, and then my profits after closing costs and renovating costs. This is the profit that I made, not including cash flow while holding it. Now, when I purchased it, the cash flow was low. It was honestly losing money every month when I purchased it because they were vacant units. And then slowly over time, as I got good tenants into the property, I was able to get better tenants and increase the cash flow. I found the deal off market. So I had the cash to purchase a property, to put as the down payment on a property. I think I put $150,000 down on this one. And I started calling property owners. So there's a website that I use. There's plenty of them out there, but the one I use is Property Radar. I created a list. I wanted multifamily. I wanted 6 units plus. I wanted built after 1970. I wanted in these neighborhoods because Ohio, especially Dayton, Ohio, has a lot of dangerous pockets, a lot of undesirable pockets of dangerous neighborhoods. So I wanted specific zip codes to make sure I bought a Class B property, not a Class D property. And yeah, in order to raise the money, I raised as much as I could, and then I reached out to my parents. I reached out to my brother-in-law, and we were able to bring the money together to purchase this property. All right. And yes, I have been to the Air Force Museum multiple times. All right, this one is in progress. I've transitioned from multifamily to retail. And this one, I've only been to this property twice, but I am done with the value add for this property. So I purchased, this is a 5,000 square foot retail center in Tampa, Florida. I purchased this one this year, February 2024. Purchased it for $300,000, and it was $115,000 invested into this building. You see the top, this was before, the bottom, this was the after. And everything needed to be done in this building. The parking lot was redone, though this top picture was taken after the parking lot was redone. The roof was done, we removed all the old signage, the interior needed plumbing, needed AC, everything you can imagine had to be done with this property. We're currently in the process of leasing this property. It's 4 retail units, 1, 2, 3, 4. We rented out this one to a tobacco shop. So they're taking 1,500 square feet. And then we're currently in the process of leasing the rest of the units. So the rehab's done, but I'm currently in the process of leasing this property out, where I have a broker that's leasing this property out for me. So once this property is done being fully rented out, this is the estimated after repair value using the cap rate. So I purchased it for $300,000. The exit price is expected to be $787,000. So far, I've spent $115,000 in renovation costs renovating this building, and by the time I'm done, I'm going to have spent about $12,000 in leasing commissions for a commercial broker out there to lease the units out for me. So my profit on the deal after leasing commissions, after renovations, after closing costs is going to be just shy of $300,000. So I have multiple value adds going on. So I just exited a bunch of multifamily in Ohio, including the ones you saw back here. This was part of a portfolio in Ohio of multifamily that I exited. And I've since been buying retail value add properties that I'm in the middle of adding value to. So this one, I'm currently in the process of leasing. Most of the heavy lifting is done. Now we're just getting a broker to rent those units out. My anticipated rent dates will be March 2025, or my anticipated exit date will be March 2025. And then I have the same issues I'm going through that I discussed earlier. I can make a decision. Do I want to exit and sell the property, but then my personal cash flow goes to zero? Do I want to refinance the property, which brings my cash flow all the way down? Or do I want to keep my existing financing and just continue enjoying the aggressive cash flow because I got in at such a low basis? This is the property I was mentioning earlier that I actually purchased with seller financing. The seller financed this property. I put $100,000 down from this $300,000, and the seller financed $200,000. And it wasn't the most favorable terms because the unit was vacant. So it was kind of on par with hard money. It was, for those that know the background of financing, it was a 2-year term, 20-year amortization at a 10% interest rate. But my monthly mortgage on this one is like $1,700 or $1,600, something like that. And each one of these units rents for, this one's renting for $2,500. This is going to rent for $1,600, $1,600, $1,600. So I could hold this owner financing note till the end of the term and really milk it. Or I could refinance, take out $500,000, pay off my loan for $200,000, and then take that $200,000-$300,000 of refinance cash. But that will significantly shrink my cash flow. This one's still in progress. We're still leasing it out, like I said. So, buying out of your neighborhood, it's not as scary as you think. So, number one, you got to know your numbers. You got to make sure you do your underwriting. You got to know how much you're buying it for. You got to get a property inspection so you have a good idea on how much you're going to spend in renovations. But you got to know your numbers. how long is it going to take to lease, what's property in that area looking like. So most of the work is actually done when I buy the property. That's if I bought something good, I either made money or lost money at the closing table. Not necessarily in dollars in my bank account, but future dollars in my bank account. So you got to make sure you're buying right. The second thing is I get multiple quotes for everything. So once I have my inspection, that's my Bible for renovations. So I take that inspection report and I'll go and I'll get multiple quotes for all the work that needs to be done. Get 3 to 5 quotes for every renovation. I'll try a contractor out on a small job first. So let's say I get 4 contractors, I'll try them out on small jobs and I'll see who does good work. And I always make sure to pay a small amount up front. I only give 25% up front so they can start buying materials, and then maybe other draws throughout depending on how much work they're doing. But I like to do 25% up front and the remainder when they finish the work. Unless it's a lot of work, I'll have them pay draws. I'll pay them out draws. And then once the property's stabilized, you create teams and processes. Whether you decide to partner with a property management company out there, that's up to you. Or you can, have in many of my properties, I have solar panel cameras, so they're on all the time. I have a photographer drive out once every month and they take photos of the exterior all around. And I have a good relationship with my tenants. So if there's any issues, I have a virtual assistant. So my tenant can call in, the virtual assistant will help them out. And if they need repairs or renovations, they will schedule that out. Even with the multifamily property, I tried multiple property managers and I ended up firing them all. And I hired a virtual assistant and we do all of our management in-house. And you can decide whether or not that's something you want to do, you feel comfortable doing, or you'd rather hire it out to a third party. But purchasing long distance, as long as you make a good buy and you're diligent on the renovations to keep them under cost, you can do long distance commercial value add, whether it's multifamily, retail, or industrial. Now, retail and industrial, I do believe, are easier with the value add, mostly because once you get a tenant in there, the work needed for that specific unit drops to 0. So if you have a 4-unit multifamily versus a 4-unit retail center, once you get a tenant in there, let's say you get a hair salon in the retail center, if you structure the lease correctly, the tenant will be responsible for all the repairs inside the unit. And even taxes and insurance, the tenants will pay you back for them in a monthly charge called CAM, Common Area Maintenance. So you keep most of the money that gets paid by the tenants, most of the money that gets paid in rents by retail and industrial tenants, you get to put into your personal bank account. Most of the money coming in from multi-family tenants still has to be filtered out through property taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, all that, and then it reaches your bank account. So it's a different kind of asset classes, how they work. Yeah, so that's pretty much that's it. It was a quick conversation about long distance value add commercial real estate. It's what I do full time now. I'm also a commercial broker in Southern California. So if you know anyone that's looking to buy, sell, or lease commercial property, retail or industrial, feel free to reach out to me. I also post content occasionally where I just share my journey, the different properties I'm buying, different properties I'm selling, the different tenants and negotiation I'm having with tenants across my value add portfolio. And that's it. I mean, it's a small portfolio. Right now, I have 2 retail centers that I'm adding value to, and a multifamily property that I'm almost done stabilizing that I'm going to get ready to list on market. And I'm just slowly growing my portfolio. Started with 3-unit back in 2019, flipped that one, bought a 4-unit, flipped that one, bought another 4-unit and a 6-unit, and then started partnering with my mom and my brother-in-law and bought a couple 10 units, just buying the property distressed, adding value, making it worth more, and then selling and moving on to the next one. And that's it. And that's the gist of things. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, concerns, or curse words, if you guys have any questions, I know there were some in the comments while I was talking, so I'm going to read those out once. Okay. Great time for realtors. Adrian, a lot of people are leaving the industry, depending on what market you're in. Some markets are crashing, so there hasn't been a lot of volume. So it really depends on where you are. Been there. What's my website contact information? I'll go back to the first screen where I had it. It was, yeah, Superior Capital. I buy, sell commercial property, multifamily, but primarily now retail, and I want to get into the industrial field. I have not purchased any industrial, but I like the numbers behind industrial. You can get industrial really, really cheap when it's vacant. So I want to get some industrial property down, some value add industrial. But I'm only going to do value add at this point. It's how I'm able to grow, how I'm able to scale is buy property with a low basis, add the value, and then figure out how to exit. Here we have Shubha asked, what was challenging about multifamily in Dayton that you had to move there? So I had a property manager that was there, and they were doing things, and the money was being spent so quickly. They were leasing units out that should have been rented out for $1,100. They were renting it at $750 and $800, just because somebody else was renting it at $750 or $800. But the reality is, they wanted to rent units quickly because they only got paid if the units get rented. They get a percentage of, so they'd rather rent something for a cheaper price than spend 2-3 months to get it rented for more. So they were also spending money like crazy. They would, no matter what the repair was to fix a toilet, they'd invoice like $300. It's like, you could buy a brand new toilet and install it for $300. How are you spending $300 just to fix it? Or a water heater repair for $600. I was like, okay, that's way too much. Another $200, you can get a brand new water heater. So they were just spending money like crazy. And a lot of times you don't want to trust property management with value add. Value add is detailed and it's complicated. So especially during the value add period, you want to be as hands-on as possible. There's a lot of expenses moving. And then once it's stabilized, you can hand it off to a property manager to kind of maintain things. It's a lot harder for them to screw things up if they're just maintaining rather than making the asset worth more. That's when there's a lot of money being spent, and it's easy for them to do shenanigans. So yeah, I had to move out there, fire the property manager, and then I moved into one of the 10 units, and then I stabilized the property, they were renting units for $750, and then I was renting the exact same units for $1,200, identical units. It took longer. I had to do more showings, sure, but that's what market was. It's simply $1,200. So that's why this one, this was scheduled to be an 8-month value add, but it took almost 2 years. Because it was one of the first times I was trying to do something long distance, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And that's real estate. That's real estate.
On that note, do you recommend to manage the property yourself while you're adding value to the property, and then once the property stabilized, then you hire someone else to manage it, or do you still do the VA route where you're kind of managing on your own?
If you have the capacity, I recommend being hands-on, especially if you're going to do retail and industrial. It's very easy to manage the property. It could be a couple hours, especially once they're stable. It's almost no work. But even the value add it doesn't have to be too much work. So it really depends on your capacity. If you're working a W-2, a high earning W-2, and that's what you need to focus on, high demand, absolutely. Definitely during the stabilization period, this is what's worked for me, is hands-on during the stabilization period. And then once it's stabilized, give it to my VA, because property management will take a percentage of gross. And if you hire a VA, train them well, it'll end up being a fraction of what a percentage of gross will cost. So I found a lot of success doing that. And these property are valued on NOI. So the lower you can drop those expenses, the more this property is worth if you're able to control expenses. So I'm doing everything I can to keep expenses close to zero as possible. Yeah. But I know people that are buying commercial real estate that are working 14 hours as an attorney, or working 11 hours. But since I'm a broker, so my schedule is flexible. So I'm able to manage my VA and manage some of these contractors from home or on my day-to-day.
Got it. That makes sense. When you're doing these value adds, are you not renting out any of the units while you're doing all of the repairs? I'm guessing. So like you have to factor in those things into your like loan or your closing costs and all that.
I'll only do that if I have to. For example, the one you're looking at here, this 10 unit in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I purchased the building. There were 4 empty units when I purchased it. Only 6 units were occupied. The owners ran out of money, and they didn't have the money to turn these units and rent them out. So they were losing money every month. But as soon as I took over the property, those 4 units, I renovated them as quickly as possible. And I got tenants in there. Well, the property management company renovated them, went way over budget. We were budgeting 5,000 a unit. It was
Mhm.
closer to 10,000 a unit. And then they got the first tenant in there. I think it was 750 or 800. And I was like, I ran my numbers at 1,200,
Mhm.
1,100. What's going on? And then they're like, no, this is market. And I was like, I don't think so. You're using comps that are in worse neighborhoods,
Mm.
because
Okay.
especially Dayton, and you think they'd know this as a property management company, but a lot of the other property they manage were in C minus neighborhoods. This one had a really good school district by it, and that's why it was commanding higher rents.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I told them, you know what, you're done. You spent way too much on the renovations. You're renting them way below market. You guys are done. So I came out. I started showing the units myself. I got the building rented, and then after I fixed the building, the removed all of the dead trees, redid the landscaping, resurfaced the parking lot. I started raising rents on the existing tenants. Not too much. Their rents were, let's say, 750. I'd take them to 950, or their rents were 600. I'll take them to 850. If you notice, the average rent was 1,050. So some of them were at 800, 900. Some of them were at the 1,200, which was market rent. And
Got it.
then the minute that last unit was rented, I listed it online, but it took way longer than I thought. And then a lot of the other tenants, when I raised their rents, they kept pushing back, give me a month, give me 2 months, give me 4 months. And I was lenient with a lot of them because, it was, there are situations where they live. I didn't really want them to leave if they could. Plus, retenanting it, if the tenant leaves, you got to renovate that unit. So it's best to take a $200 bump than have to spend 10 grand on the unit and get a $500 bump. So it really depends on how much you have in reserves. Because honestly, I might have been able to sell this for more. My
Yeah.
underwriting, I had it at 900,000 as the exit, but I had my average monthly rent at 1150.
Makes
And there
sense.
was a couple of reasons I ended up letting more tenants stay at the lower rents, and also because the project was taking longer,
Hmm.
I could have spent a couple thousand on those units and I had a higher exit. But this project was taking way too long. Yeah.
Got I'll let other.
Wayne was asking, how long does an average flip take to complete? Do you work with new investors, and so are you willing to guide them through the process from start to finish? I mean, I'm willing to answer any questions you have. I don't do like any structured coaching or anything, but if you have questions or you're looking at a property, you have questions about it. I mean, this is what this meetup's for. It's just so we can talk, you can share your ideas, and just to help people get the ball rolling. There's honestly a lot of money to be made out there. A lot of people have been talking about how it's a bad time to buy real estate. I started in 2019. So there was a huge run up from 2011 to 2019. There was a massive run up. And 2019 to 2022, there was still massive. But honestly, if you're doing value add, you can make money in any economy. Now, the person that bought this for 860, let's talk about them for a minute. This older guy came in that was just looking for something steady, wasn't going to do value add. He ended up buying this property. He's putting himself in a riskier situation. If the market shifts, this property it could be worth 800 because the value's already been added. Yeah, he could squeeze some more value raising these rents as they expire. He could squeeze some more value out of it down the road. But I honestly think that was buying stabilized property is riskier than buying value add property. If you have a clear direction on how you're going to add the value and the market supports how you're going to add the value, you can make money in any market. Now, to answer your questions directly, how long does it take an average flip take? I usually try to do between 8 to 12 months, but like this one took almost 2 years. This one looks like it's going to be on schedule. Started this one in February. I expected it to take about 12 months. It's looking like it's going to be closer to 15. So it really depends on the property. I know I've purchased stuff that I've done in 6 months or 8 months. It really depends on the property, depends on the market you're in. It depends on the asset class too. So I hate when people answer questions with it depends, but it really does depend. If you buy a 400 unit where all the units need to be renovated, that's going to take you several years. If you buy a 9 unit where 5 of them are already at market, you only have to raise rents on 4 tenants, assuming one of them leave, 2 of them leave when you raise it, you could do it in 3 months. So it's really hard to answer that question without looking at a specific property. And yeah, if you have any questions, I mean, I'll put my phone number in the chat. You can ask questions, send property details. I mean, I want to help other people do it. So
Matthew,
yeah.
you're in California. How come you haven't tried real estate in Nevada or Arizona?
Now, initially, I was priced out of those markets. When I started, my first property was a $100,000 triplex in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I put 30,000 down on that property. So it was kind of like I started in Ohio out of necessity. I couldn't afford Arizona. I couldn't afford any of those markets. And now that I can, I've started looking at those markets. I've expanded, especially with commercial real estate. I can really do this long distance thing. So it's kind of opened up my market. I underwrote property in Arizona. I was actually under contract for a property in Tucson, but I didn't end up closing on it after the inspection report. But yeah, I'm open to those markets now that I can afford them. But at the beginning, it was like my budget was like 100,000, 150,000. So I couldn't look at any property anywhere other than like the Midwest. But now I'm looking, but I feel like I kind of missed the boat by now, because now you look at Phoenix, you look at any of those markets that you just mentioned, and they've exploded. Okay, I put my number in the chat. If you guys want to chat or have more questions after this call hangs up, and we still got time. But if you guys have questions down the road, you guys can feel free to shoot me a text or give me a call. We can discuss specific properties. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to ask, have you gotten into raising money from private investors at all, or is that something you've thought about doing, or do you see that as like a good way for you to scale at this stage? I know because you've had a lot of experience and you've done a lot of these things with your own money. So
that's the next step. So far, the only people I've raised money from, once my parents, my brother-in-law saw me doing my third deal and my fourth deal where things are going well, and you know, I'm doubling, tripling my money. That's when they're like, all right, let's here's some funds, go ahead, buy bigger and give me more. And I'm open, like, absolutely. That's the next step. The next step in order to do this bigger is just to carefully buy larger deals. Because what I'm starting to realize is it's pretty much the same amount of work, no matter the size of the property. You think the bigger you get, the more work it is. It's really not, especially once you have systems in place and you got the VA and you got the VA knows what to do, and you got the ball rolling and you got the contractor. Things are kind of, you get, because let's say you're making 70% on your money. You put in, you know, 100 grand and you exit with 170. If you put in $1 million, you're going to exit with 1.7 million. So the percentages continue, assuming you're still carefully running your numbers. So yeah, the next step to scale is just to partner with other people that are interested in real estate and be able to start doing big deals. The other thing is, because I've been exiting, the ball's just been rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. So my number one ability, my number one access to capital is previous deals that I'm done adding value to. That's my number one way I've been able to keep scaling and scaling and scaling. Yeah, but eventually I'd love to partner with people and buy bigger and better deals. Because like I was saying earlier, I'm not sure if you were in the call, but one of the reasons I've been exiting is because these have been older properties. And older properties carry a big risk with the roof and the plumbing and the electrical. There's one major component goes bad and you've wiped out years of cash flow. So one of my goals is to be able to start buying newer properties, but those are they're more expensive. Newer properties are more expensive.
yeah. Do you have? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was going to read Van's question real quick. Ohio does not have rent control. No, it's you can raise rents to whatever market are, and if someone stops paying rents 30 to 45 days, $400 to an eviction attorney, and 30 to 45 days, and the unit's comes back to you. What condition it'll come back to you, I don't know, but it'll come back to you.
I am very interested. Sorry, Matthew.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm interested in partnering with people to invest. Is it possible you can arrange a meetup for people that are in California that are interested in the same thing?
Yeah, I want to eventually start doing these like hybrid, where if anyone's local, they can come and we can chat in person, but we can still have, you know, the screen set up so people that aren't local can still come and learn. To be frank, this is the first one. I just decided like I've been kind of on an island this whole time here, just buying and selling real estate by myself, and I was having trouble finding meetups that didn't have a ridiculous price tag on them, and I just wanted to talk with other people about commercial real estate. So I just created something on Meetup, and people started joining. So I was like, hey, let's talk real estate. So yeah, the goal is I want to do something in person, maybe at a local bar or something. I'm in Corona, so it'd probably be something within 10, 15 miles, so people in Southern California can we can meet up, grab some drinks, talk real estate, and also people online can still listen in and ask questions and chat.
I just want to ask, as someone who still hasn't done their first deal, who's still figuring out how to do all of these things, how do you recommend to talk to, like, once I, decide a market and I'm like, I want to invest long distance in this place, how do I start to find brokers to reach out to them? And then when I do reach out to them, how do I get them to start giving me deals that are off market instead of just what they have on market?
Yeah. So number one, I'd start looking on market. I bought a decent amount of property on market, some off market, but most of what I bought has been on market and making aggressive offers. So this one, for example, was listed for $399, pretty much 400,000, but the numbers didn't work at 400,000 because I wanted a healthy profit. This was a bigger risk deal. It was a vacant retail. The city actually wanted to demolish this building. They had slated it. There was a demolition order on it, but the building was in relatively good shape, but the owner wasn't taking care of it at all. So this was considered a higher risk. It was on market for 400. It's been under contract 2 or 3 times, but as soon as the buyer does the inspection, they're like, I'm not doing this. So what I did was, all right, I put in an offer at 275. They countered me at 340, and I was like, okay, now we're talking. This is starting to make sense. And I finished running my numbers, and I hardlined at 300, and then they ended up taking with seller financing. We negotiated seller financing later. So number one, don't discredit on market. Yeah, a lot of people talk about everything on market's a bad deal. Yes, at the asking price. The asking price is just a suggestion. Now, for once you know your criteria, let's say I want to buy a fourplex in Denver. I'm looking. I want it to be value add. I'm expecting my budget is 800,000. Let's just making up criteria. You call brokers and you tell them that's your criteria. Make sure you're calling the right brokers. Look at the transactions that they've done. If you plug in the broker's name on Google, you can see their previous transactions. So don't call an industrial broker for something that's looking for a 4 unit. And the other thing is be ready to act. So if it's 4 units or less, get that pre-qualification. Because if it's under 4 units, the bank will pre-approve you. There isn't really a pre-approval in commercial, but you can still have a conversation with the bank. Hey, I want to buy this. Here's all my documents. Would you approve me? You can start having that conversation with them, and then you need to show them that you're serious. Because I'm a broker, and a lot of times I'll get callers from Texas that go like, I want to buy a retail strip center in Southern California. I'm like, what's your budget? They're like, I don't know, just I want a good deal. Okay, like what kind of, are you looking for anchored, unanchored? As long as the numbers work, and I don't know what to send them. Like I could send them 3,000 properties and they're not gonna. So make sure you're actually ready to pull the trigger. And honestly, on market's your best resource. Now, if you're trying to get really good deals and you have time, I'd recommend going off market. That's when you can get a lot of juicy deals, but there's a lot of labor involved to getting that deal. If you factor in your dollar per hour of profit, it could actually be lower if you have to spend 200, 300, 400 hours sending out letters. And for example, this guy, how I was able to buy it, I found his work email online. I found out what company he works for, and I found his work email. And then I emailed his work email. And then he's like, I have it. And I only emailed him about the 6 unit. And then he's like, I have a 6 unit, but if I was going to sell it, I'd sell it with the 4 unit I own next to it. And I was like, all right, let's talk numbers. Like, how much would you want for these? And I'm trying to, and then bought it off market, and there was no agent involved. And I was able to buy this property from him. But the amount of letters and emails and calls that I tried to make was, all of that should get factored into here. You don't see it when you're just looking at the numbers, but that all got factored into my profit.
Yeah.
Give me one second. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna turn on the lights. It's getting real dark in my office. All right. Anybody else have some questions, concerns, first words? I think there was
Yeah,
one in the others. Looks like there's a couple people around. Yeah, we're definitely going to do something in person. Try to make it a hybrid on the next one.
I have
What do
a
you got?
question.
Yeah.
After COVID, a lot of people didn't go back to their office.
Mhm.
Is there a lot of commercial real estate available in California or throughout the US, I should say?
Yeah, so the office building I've been shying away from, mostly because what's going on. Everyone is going either remote or hybrid, where they're shrinking their office footprint. There's a lot of office available all over the country. But personally, I wouldn't go for office because I feel like leasing is very challenging. Leasing anything commercial, once you leave residential, where you have retail, office, and industrial, the value of the property, the whole value add is the leasing. Yeah, you got to renovate the building just so you can lease it. But the building's only worth what the lease is. So if you have two buildings, one has the buildings are exactly the same, but one is rented for twice the other, it'll be worth twice as much, assuming the expenses are the same. It'll be worth twice as much, even if the buildings look the same. So a lot of people that move from residential to commercial, they kind of get shocked on how much easier it is to add value in commercial, because all you have to do is raise the income. All you have to do, even if you make no renovations, but the tenant is paying more, the building is worth more. So with office, they're hard to lease. So we were talking about this at the beginning of the call when we were networking, but there's a lot of vacant office buildings in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, that are just 30% occupied, and they're selling for a fraction of what they sold for several years ago. So it's all about what you can lease the unit for. So even though they look like really good deals, if you look at them from a price per square foot, the part you're missing is the difficulty to fill them up with tenants. So personally, I wouldn't touch office. I got really tempted with one in Ohio, where I was going to get the seller was actually an engineering company that was occupying one of the floors in the office building, and they were gonna stay and rent there, but I decided not to because there was still a full floor that was empty, and I wasn't confident that I'd be able to fill it up. Yeah, I got a lot of people in this call in Orange County and
Thank you.
Southern California, so we'll definitely meet in perfect. No problem, Bia. All right. Any questions, concerns, or anything? Like, again, I posted my number earlier, so if you guys come across a specific deal that you guys want some feedback on, you guys can shoot me a text. I'll run some preliminary numbers on it and send it to you if you guys want to talk about it. The big thing is though, pull the trigger on that first deal. That first deal, it's the scariest, even though it's usually the smallest. It's the scariest, and then after that, it just gets easier. The first time you do anything in real estate, first time I bought retail, I was scared. The first time I bought multi-family larger than 5 units where we enter commercial, I was scared. Somebody raise their hand. They got a question.
Hey Matt, how's it going?
Good. How's it going with you?
Hey man, I'm doing well. So yeah, I'm just tuning in. I apologize for the delay, but I just wanted to ask you. I think that's great. You're doing commercial real estate. What is like your is your specialty commercial real estate?
Yes, I've transferred from multifamily. A lot of people don't consider multifamily commercial, but I've transitioned from commercial multifamily to commercial retail for the most part.
Nice. And like, what do you do like professionally? I mean, you invest in real estate. You invest in commercial real estate, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Are you a mortgage broker, or are you a realtor, or are you just focusing on investing mainly?
No, I'm also a commercial broker in Southern California, a retail and industrial commercial broker. People that are looking to lease or buy, things like that, I help them.
Okay, I like that. And so like if I have any questions about like finding a commercial property, can I text you?
Sure, yeah. If you have a specific deal you want to send to me to get some, to get my thoughts on it, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, commercial real estate, honestly, it's changed my life, and I want to help others, especially on those first few deals when things are scary. Yeah, send it over. I'll let you know what I think. I'll let you know if I would buy it or pass on it, or what the deal is.
Perfect, Matthew. Thank you so much. Where's your number?
I posted it earlier. I will post it again, actually, just so people that are coming in can catch it.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a question in the chat. Let me post my number now. We're 909 494. Okay, the question is, oh, that was a statement. When we took the DRA exam, we were scared earlier. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, everything's scary the first time you do it. Whether it's a flip or a purchase or a sale or a 1031. First 1031, I was scared for some reason. It's the first time you do anything. You got a question? First, you got to tell me how to pronounce your name, just so I'm saying it right.
Yeah, it's Shub.
Shub.
Like Shub. Yeah. I just want to ask from your perspective. So I know you've been in real estate for a long time, but if for people who aren't as familiar, who are looking to get straight into investing, I have a little bit of a fear with like I feel like there's a knowledge gap just about real estate, like everything a property management company would do, how to close, the zoning and like a few different things like that. Is there anything you recommend to like read up on, any source material you're like, you should go here and look at these things or listen to these people or talk or just to kind of slowly close that gap?
Yeah, for your first deal, I recommend Bigger Pockets. I'm sure everyone's heard of them, but they give great information if you're buying, your first duplex, triplex, quad. You're buying smaller deals. You're trying to take that first jump. They're super, super helpful. The thing is, they put out so much content and so much information. A lot of people get stuck in analysis paralysis. I was at some point, I realized I had watched at that point, they were only up to like 800 or 900 podcasts. And I was like, I've listened to every single one and I still haven't bought a piece of property. That's when I was like, okay, I'm stuck in analysis paralysis. And a lot of those gaps aren't going to get filled till you do it. But you just got to make sure you cover the basics. And the most important one is making sure you're buying a good deal or you're buying something for less. I'm sorry, less than it's worth. So you're buying a good deal and there's a clear path to adding value. Everything else, you're going to be surrounded by professionals that are going to help you. Like, oh, my financing. How do I set up financing? The loan officer is going to take you through every single step of that process. And they'll let you know what your monthly payment is going to be, what your interest rate is going to be. Or for example, what if there's an issue with title? There's a title company that's going to check the title, make sure there's no liens, make sure there's no backed up taxes. There's none of that stuff. What if there's a million things that could go wrong? But I think the best way to clear that knowledge gap after you've covered your basis, like I know I'm buying a good deal, is just to do it. Like I've learned so much from that first deal that I didn't really know, like how to write a lease, how to evict tenants, how to do you don't need to know all that stuff when you get started, but you just need to know enough to make sure you're buying a good deal. Because for example, let's go back to the first property I bought 2019. It was this little triplex. My mortgage, I took a $75,000 loan. I put 25% down. My mortgage on that, my monthly payment on that was $690. Each unit rented for $700. So I didn't need any fancy spreadsheets to tell me that just made sense. Yeah, obviously, it's not just my mortgage. I'm going to have repairs. I'm going to have maintenance, and I'm going to have taxes and insurance. But all of that added up to be another $400 or $500 a month. And then once I rented all the units for $700, I was able to sell the building for $190 8 months later. And that was my first deal just because it just made so much sense to me. Okay, a property, some people like to use the 1% rule, for example, and that's good for a very quick preliminary analysis where it's like if the property is bringing in 1% of the value of the property, it's considered a good deal. Now that leaves out a whole bunch of details, but it's good just to quickly find out, should I even dive deeper into it? Is it close to the 1%? So for example, the 1% on that one would be $700 per unit. So stabilize, this thing's going to bring in 2,100 and it's selling for 100. That's almost a 2% rule, or that's more than the 2% rule. So let's say you're looking at a 4 units that's going to bring in $3,000 a month and it's selling for 320,000. Now okay, it's close. And you can really start running your numbers. What is taxes? What is insurance? The basics you need to learn is something called underwriting, which is a fancy word for running the numbers. How much will this property make after property taxes, after insurance, after maintenance, after vacancy? There's a lot of spreadsheets out there that can help you. But once you're sure you're buying a good deal, after that, it's aggressively saving for a down payment. and then buying that first one. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the advice. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Anyone got any other questions, concerns, curse words?
Yeah, Matthew, would you say that you would need to have a little bit of capital? Because I know you said you had 30K, right?
Yeah.
But is that like the best way to go about it or the easiest way? Because I know it's really hard to get zero down seller financing or something like that. Or, there's always closing costs. So
There's a couple ways to go about it. If you have the flexibility, I'm sure. I don't know if you've heard of house hacking. It's the easiest way to get in because it's 3.5% down. So you could buy up to 4 units at 3.5% down. So even if it's expensive, even if you're talking like a triplex that's 4, 5, 600,000, you're still talking about a very small amount down. The other option is to partner with someone, to find someone that has capital but doesn't have time, and then to buy the property. It can be a little bit more challenging if you haven't done a deal yet to convince someone like, hey, let's work on this together. But you can partner with someone, or the easiest way is to find a duplex or a triplex and get an FHA loan on that property, 3.5%. I purchased a property FHA. It wasn't my first property, but I purchased a triplex, and it was $140,000 triplex, also in Dayton, and I put like $9,000 down or something like that. I bought that one for $115,000 and I sold it for $175,000 a year and a half later, and I lived in that one for a while.
Was that before you moved out there for that troubled project, or was that after?
It was during. Because now that I was out there, I was leveraging the fact that I lived there and I could do the FHA.
Okay, thanks for the insight.
Yeah. All right. Once again, guys, I put my number on the side. If you have questions, concerns, curse words, let me know. If you want me to look over a deal before you pull the trigger on it, I look forward to helping people. Yeah, what do you got for me?
So, what market right now? You're based in Southern California. What market right now do you think is the best for commercial in California, or even around the United States? What do you think is pretty good?
It's a tough question because there's so many good markets. So what's the nice thing about unlocking all these markets is you can try to hunt for good deals inside those markets. But I mean, the high growth markets are great. But for example, I like Tampa. I like Houston. I like Tucson. There are a lot of them that already blew up quite aggressively. Like if you look at Austin, if you look at Phoenix, these markets have exploded in the last year and a half, 2 years, and you're already starting to see them calm down. I think Austin has the largest rental rate drop in its history. So rents are starting to come down in Austin after exploding. So I'd look for near markets that have blown up. So for example, Los Angeles blew up. It might have been too expensive to purchase in Los Angeles, but the surrounding markets had yet to get expensive. But now Austin is so expensive. If someone wants to move to Austin, they're going to move to the areas around Austin. So I'd recommend 30 to 45 minutes outside major metros that have already blown up. For example, this retail center I purchased is actually 30 minutes outside of Tampa. Because if I would have purchased the same property in Tampa, it would have been 3 times the price. But this area is growing rapidly. Why? Because people can't afford to live in Tampa anymore. So this place is seeing a 5-6% population growth year over year. So take any of the markets that blew up in the last 2 or 3 years: Houston, Austin, Tampa, Nashville, Phoenix. Go 30 to 45 minutes out, and those are all gold mines right there, at least in my opinion. Like seeing the population growth over the last 3 years, this small town right outside of Tampa called Hudson, it's in the Tampa metro, but it's outside of Tampa, has been growing 5 to 6% per year. If that continues for another couple years, this population is going to be 2-3 times X, and value growth follows population growth because there's more people. So if I get a business in here, they're going to get more customers. If I get a tobacco shop in here, the tobacco shop's going to get more customers. They're going to be doing better. They can afford more rent. If it's multifamily, it's easy to see the connection there. If there's more people looking for places to live. If it's industrial, there's more business owners that are looking for places to run their business. So population value increase follows population growth.
There's a way to find the path
Thank
of
you.
development also, right?
There are great softwares out there that will look for permits in certain neighborhoods where people are starting to build. There's a lot of ways to do it, but the deal is more important than the neighborhood. Like Dayton, for example, I would not consider this a good market, but the deal was good. So you can buy great deals in bad markets and still make a lot of money. You can buy bad deals in phenomenal markets and lose a lot of money. The deal trumps the market by far. The deal and the operator trump the market. So you can be a good operator and find a good deal, and the market might not matter. The market would just be the tailwinds helping you along. So if this was in a good market, I might have been able to rent it really, really fast rather than it taking me months to rent each unit. Or if this was in a better market, I might have been able to get an extra $50, $100 per unit in rent, which would have helped my exit value. But if you're a good operator, you're aggressive. I used to list the units on Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, Trulia, HotPads, like 11 or 12 different websites. And every time an inquiry came in, no matter from what website it was, I followed up with them immediately within an hour or two. So being a good operator can trump a lot of these market issues. I wouldn't obsess too much on market and obsess more on the deal. Obsess more on what the actual value add plan is and how I'm going to make this property worth more. Cool.
That was great insight. Thanks, Matthew.
No, I appreciate you, man. Cool. Anything else? Questions, concerns off the top of your head? I had us till 7, so if you guys have any, while I got you guys here, I'll get to your question in a moment. While I have you guys here, if you guys have any ideas for what topics you guys would like discussed, the only reason I did long distance commercial real estate investing because it was probably the biggest question I got. How do you live in Southern California and buy? I just bought another retail center in Kansas, and I sold all my multifamily property while living in California. So that's why I chose this topic. Now, if you guys have other ones, if you guys have any suggestions or ideas or things you want to discuss at length, let me know, and then we can make that the next one. What do you got for me?
When's the meeting going to be in person? Because it'd be nice to meet you and talk to you more about what you're doing.
I'm still kind of putting the process in place for this. I'm thinking about doing it monthly and then doing it hybrid, where there's a camera set up. We go someplace and we set up a camera, but I need to find a location. So I need to maybe call some restaurants, see if they're open to allowing us to, if they have a private room where we can meet up. I think my apartment complex has a place that we can rent, but I got to figure out schedule and pricing and things like that. But the next one, which will be, I'm thinking of doing, I like the second Monday of each month, but I'll send it out on the Meetup group for sure. And the next one will be hybrid. So we'll meet in person. As many people can come, even if it's just 2-3 of us, where we can sit and chat. Same thing. We'll have the computer open, so if people want to touch base from anywhere, and we can all start, buying deals, start making things move. Because it's really, once you take that first step and you realize the power that's out there, and you become a good operator, because the stock market, you cannot control the price of the stock. The CEO can go and cheat on his wife, and now it's worth half of what it's worth. The CEO could get into, God forbid, he gets into an accident and dies. Now the stock's worth less. So I couldn't control my stock investments. That's when I realized, like, these are real estate investments you can control, where you actually have, it's not passive by any stretch of the imagination. I hope nothing I said in the last hour and a half made you think that real estate investing is passive. It's very, very active. There's a way you can do it that's passive. You can partner with someone, or you can invest in funds or syndications, or you can buy REITs on the stock market. So there are ways you can invest in real estate passively, but the real chunk of money comes to those that are doing it actively, those that are going out there and buying deals and making returns. So this one, I put 200 in and I got back 191. So I pretty much technically I put in 195. So 150,000 down, 45,000 invested, and I got all my money back plus 191. So this is slightly under 100% return. So in this one, once it's done, it's not done yet. So I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. But this one, I want to show you guys a retail example. So that's why I put this one up. This one, I put 100,000 down to the lender. And I had 115 in renovations. So this one, I'm going to be all in 215 plus the leasing commission. So I'm going to be all in, let's say 230. This one's a little over, 120-ish% return on my cash. There's a lot of work in between purchasing this property, putting the 100,000 down. I had fired several contractors. I sued one of them where I paid them the 25%, but it was of a $50,000 job. So I paid them 12, 15 grand. They weren't scheduling people to come out when they did do work. It was super sloppy. I had photographers go out and photograph the work for me. And then I ended up firing them. They didn't want to give me my down payment back. I told them I'll pay for materials, but that's about it. And they only bought about $4,000 worth of materials. So I had to file a lawsuit in Florida. So there's a whole bunch of work between this and getting these profits. But it's all about being a good operator, buying good property and being a good operator. And you can make a lot of this money. And this is all just it's all on the go. It's all making calls. It's all, scheduling the photographer, getting different quotes from contractors, getting insurance quotes, fighting with the city to get a certain use approved in the retail center. That's all operations. So you have a lot of control over how much your asset's going to be worth, how much work you're willing to put in, how much knowledge you're willing to pick up and do it. So unless anyone has any more questions, which I'm still open to, we still got a couple minutes here. I will have one next month. The minute I have a location, I will create an event and send it out. It'll be both in person and online. So those of you that aren't local can still join in. Any other questions for me? I see you guys have a topic suggestion. Thank you. I appreciate the topic suggestion. And I appreciate all of you guys for coming and letting me talk. I'm fluent in Japanese, as they say, but if you guys have any questions throughout the week, you guys can shoot me a text and we'll talk next month.
Thanks, Matthew. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck and take some action. Take some action while you're hanging out there.